A group of House Republicans are calling on Speaker Nancy Pelosi to subpoena multiple public health officials, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, to finally get some answers about the origins of the coronavirus. Wouldn't that be nice? Joining us now to talk more about this is Texas Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
It's nice to have you on. A group of lawmakers sent a very plain letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, basically asking for transparency. Why is this so important?
Well, this is critically important. I really want to give a shout out to my friend Rand Paul for his leadership in the Senate in pointing out the hypocrisy and frankly, the lack of honesty from Dr. Fauci about what he knew about his involvement, as well as the other leadership, NIH and other our health officials in funding from the United States of America, which I think taxpayers have a right to know about dollars that are going to the Wuhan Institute of Virology that we think was directly connected to the outbreak of the coronavirus and COVID and what that impact has had on the American people. We have sent numerous letters to Dr. Fauci. My friend Bill Posey and I have reached out to Dr. Fauci and said, well, would you come out and give us answers on this? We've not had any real responses from him. We think that we ought to have hearings in the United States House of Representatives. And the letter you just referenced, I was happy to work with my colleagues to lead, to push on the Speaker to have hearings. And I don't know why the Speaker won't have hearings. She won't have hearings on this. She doesn't really want to have hearings on what's been going on in the Middle East and what we've seen unfold in Afghanistan. Hopefully we'll now have a few more. We had one hearing, thankfully, this last week where we had Secretary Blinken. But I want to have General Milley. I want to have Secretary Austin. I want to have all those in front of the United States House of Representatives. And Dr. Fauci needs to come before us and answer about the origins of this virus. What did he know? And did the United States taxpayer dollars go to help fund what happened in Wuhan?
Yeah, I guess I don't understand why this issue is not completely bipartisan. There are more than 650,000 Americans alone that have lost their lives that we know about as a result of a virus which may have been made by man in a laboratory in Wuhan, and much of the funding for this laboratory might have been money that the American taxpayers provided under Dr. Fauci's watchful eye through the EcoHealth Alliance. And why we're not able to ask the good doctors simple questions is beyond me. Why do you think the left is so obsessed with covering for this guy?
Well, they have elevated Dr. Fauci to a status of some sort of almost deity, that everything he says and does is something that all of a sudden that means the American people must do, whatever Dr. Fauci says. So if you start to pull apart the facade, that he's propped up with his feet up on magazine covers, sitting next to a pool, and he's going to cocktail circuit parties, throwing out balls, first pitches at ball games. If you suddenly point out, hey, it was Dr. Fauci, the people around him, the people at NIH that were taking taxpayer dollars and throwing them over to Wuhan for gain of function research that may well have had a lot to do with why we're even dealing with this in the first place.
Yeah.
That maybe people would question the almighty Dr. Fauci and start to say, wait a second, we the American people need to get back to controlling our lives. Dr. Fauci can't just say one thing, the next thing, different day, 1 month, and change the entire way we deal with this as a country. And now we've got the President of the United States issuing unlawful, unconstitutional, illegal orders, trying to tell small businesses they've got to go around mandating that their employees get vaccinated.
Congressman, what did you make of that, by the way? So I just wanted to ask you about that. The president a week ago saying basically 100 million Americans need to get vaccinated or you'll lose your job, including federal workers in the federal government, although interestingly enough, not members of Congress. But the president did not say a word about people that are crossing the border illegally, getting tested or vaccinated, or any of the 50,000 refugees that just came to this country from the Middle East, many of whom are not political refugees. What'd you make of that? Why? Why not just mandate that people that come to this country illegally get vaccinated?
Well, look, I think the hypocrisy of this administration is shining. Right now in Texas, we just found out on our southern border, the numbers for August are 208,000. That blew the lid off of what we were being told it was going to be in terms of apprehensions.
Right.
Just last night, we now have about 5,000 people piling up in Del Rio. I'm told 10,000 more on the way. We have an unbelievable crisis at our border. When I was in South Texas with Ted Cruz last week, we were meeting with ranchers, meeting with local officials, and 22% of the people that they've been running across are COVID positive. We still have 4,000 people in a facility down in McAllen.
It's unbelievable.
We have people coming across our border positive for COVID. The president doesn't care. The president is more interested in telling you that you've got to close your business down or mandate your people get vaccinated.
American
it's
citizens.
Un-American, it's unlawful, it's wrong.
I'm with you, Congressman. And if he acknowledges those people crossing the border, then he would be acknowledging that there's a problem, and he wouldn't want to do that. Congressman Chip Roy, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Good to see you.
God bless you, too.
All right. Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.